This is Reparations Now, presented by the American Freedmen Foundation. This is not for skeptics that need to be convinced of the merits of reparations for descendants of the victims of chattel slavery and Jim Crow. This is for people who are already convinced and are willing to take action now, because our belief is that the lack of a clear reparations strategy is the primary obstacle standing in the way. Our goal here is to lay out a practical and achievable solution. The Black wealth gap is around $50 trillion. That's over $1 million for every Black individual. The economic devastation caused by hundreds of years of wage and property theft is the single biggest source of our problems as a community today. Even if we close the gap by $1 billion a month, which would be extremely difficult and require superhuman effort given the fact that the wealth gap is actually growing, it would take about 4,166 years to close the gap. The research has already proven that even if we closed education, income, homeownership, employment, and other gaps, the wealth gap would persist. In other words, all of us could all make the perfect financial and life choices, and the gap still would not close for thousands of years. So the whole pull yourselves up by your bootstraps trope is absolute nonsense. A national reparations program is the only way to close this gap in any reasonable time frame. That research and more is listed on the AFF website for anyone that would like to confirm it, along with more details about the plan I'll be discussing in this presentation. As of 2022, the average American net worth was about $1.06 million. So our goal is to increase average Black wealth to at least $1 million in 2022 dollars. Now it just becomes a math problem. The easiest way to do this would be to simply print $50 trillion and send out million-dollar checks. There are obvious challenges with this approach, and there's a significant chance that if we send out one-time checks, the gap could just reopen in relatively short order. We have a more practical solution. But before we get into the numbers, let's specify who our program is for. American citizens who can trace their lineage to citizens that identified as Black, Negro, colored, etc., before the passage of the Voting Rights Act of 1965. Initially, we would begin with children ages 1 to 3, which would also have the benefit of dramatically decreasing child poverty in our community. Depending on the amount of funding secured, this could be opened up to more people, but this is the initial target. Back to strategy. Here are our considerations. First, if we increase the money supply by 50 trillion all at once, it will likely result in massive inflation, which would decrease the value of the wealth we just received. Giving people money stimulates demand for things that money can buy. Without a counterbalance to increase supply of those things, inflation is the likely result. So we have to create a mechanism that grows supply along with demand and attempts to mitigate the risk of inflation. Second, we want this program to eventually be self-sustaining, meaning that it creates a permanent fund that grows over time and does not rely on perpetual government support, like Social Security. So instead of a one-time lump sum, recipients get distributions for life. And once the endowment is fully funded, it will also be self-sustaining without requiring any further contributions. It's unlikely that we'll get a $50 trillion check cut, so we need to find capital-efficient ways to leverage a smaller initial amount into something that can grow to 50 trillion in a human lifetime. And the last thing we want to do is get all this money and then give it right back in taxes. So we need a way to distribute wealth without creating a large tax burden on the recipients. So taking all these things into consideration, we developed the concept of the Guaranteed Wealth Program, a tax-efficient way to leverage an initial pool of capital into a larger pool of permanent wealth. The first component is a permanent pool of capital that will be invested using a multi-stage, multi-asset strategy into things like real estate, small business, stocks, bonds, commodities, venture capital, and private equity. A large portion of these investments will go towards increasing the productive capacity of Black-owned businesses. So instead of sending the funds directly out to reparations recipients, those funds will be invested and the returns will be distributed to recipients at regular intervals. Since our goal is to guarantee wealth, not just income, endowment distributions will go towards funding permanent life insurance policies with a guaranteed death benefit, guaranteed dividend, and a large cash balance. Therefore, the next generation will receive a tax-free inheritance, while current recipients can leverage their cash balance to make investments that generate income similar to the larger endowment. While this program is not intended to provide income directly, we do want people to be able to access cash as needed. So instead of withdrawing from the cash balance and incurring fees and taxes, members can simply borrow against it to help pay for personal expenses or make investments like a down payment on a home. Since you're just borrowing from yourself, there is no credit impact. Finally, each recipient will have an account with a wallet where they can see information about their insurance policy and cash balance, access online banking services, send and receive payments, get access to other financial services like retirement accounts, tax strategy, and estate planning, and borrow against their cash balance if they need to access funds. And the platform would initially look something like this: a mobile wallet where users can view their insurance information, cash balances, loan balances, and access financial and tax advisory services. This financial dashboard exemplifies transparency and empowerment. It provides individuals with a clear view of their financial status, promoting informed decision-making and financial growth. Using this strategy, we can close the $50 trillion gap in one lifetime with just $2.2 trillion. However, we can start the program with as little as $10 million and expand from there. We are currently seeking seed funding to complete the software platform and implement a small pilot program. The wealth gap is currently growing, and with the looming threat of AI destroying jobs, we don't have time to wait to secure our economic futures. The time for reparations is now, and we have everything we need within our community to make it happen. Please visit Freedmen Foundation to learn more and support the movement, and be sure to like and share this video.